All right. So again, our goal in this 1 hour block is to dive into the content operating system, which is our system for building an audience, building a one-to-many relationship with individuals who are interested in our stuff. So that is our goal. That's our mission. So jumping in, our roadmap, 3 things I'd like to dive into today is just the foundation of the content operating system, the overarching system, like the multiple systems that combine together make the content operating system. And then we're going to do a detailed breakdown of each of those systems within the overarching content OS. We have our foundation. The foundation that you have is going to be clarity and courage. I'd say those are the 2 main things that will determine how well you do in everything else. Okay, so clarity and courage. Our goal is just to build clarity. You have to summon the courage to actually do this. And the reason I say it's clarity and courage is because for me personally, I'm a coach. I wanted to coach basically anybody and everybody who came my way, but that is not a good way to do it. 1, that's not high clarity. It's not super niche. 2, it's a lack of courage on my part to say, these are the people that I serve best, that I want to serve, that pay me the most money, etc. Right? So clarity and courage are going to be our foundation in our content operating system. And without them, our content operating system will not have the impact that we desire. Simply put, if people don't know what we do, aka we don't have clarity, then they won't want to follow us. And if we aren't willing to share that with them, then using our courage, then they also won't really know what we do. Or it'll be too vague for them to actually say, this person can help me. This person solves my problem. So the very first thing we want to tackle is the ideal client profile. ICP, the avatar. There's so many different words for this. I'm going to give you guys the questions that have helped me nail down my avatar and determine who it was I actually wanted to work with. And that's the first question, is like, who do you want to work with? As a coach, for me, this question was incredibly powerful just because I felt that I could work with anybody, that the principles that I guided people through were impactful for anyone. And so I struggled for months to try and nail this down. And I would say only in the past couple of weeks have I really nailed it down and actually propagated that throughout all of my content and marketing and profiles, etc. Right? So who do you want to work with? And I encourage you guys, write these questions down, or write down the answers to these questions, but who do you want to work with? So for me, I want to work with, as a coach, I want to work with high agency individuals, people who are go-getters. They go out and they get crap done. And specifically, I love to work with people in business to help them determine how to balance their work, amplify their work with their home life, and with their health and their fitness, and also help them know how to build up their relationships and increase their impact in their relationships. So entrepreneurs, specifically solopreneurs, are the people that I want to work with, because 1, I feel like the world is kind of moving in that way, where each person is going to become something of a solopreneur. But entrepreneurs in general, I love the people who undertake difficult actions. Second, who makes you the most money, right? Knowing who makes you the most money with the least amount of effort is incredibly important. And if you don't have data or metrics on this, that's totally fine. I personally don't yet. But who makes you the most money is going to be incredibly important in the long run. And determining who those individuals are, either how you create them or how you attract them, is going to determine, all right, what's our focus of our content operating system? How can we communicate and call these people out of the woodworks so that we can work more with them? Third is, what kind of client detracts from your ability to provide value to your other clients? We want to fire these guys because they do not, in the long run, they don't help us. A great example of this, I think there's Southwest. They had this one lady who would always call. Every time she flew, she would call into customer service and just complain and rant. And she would eventually got all the way up to the CEO one of these times where the CEO was finally just like, thank you for your service. Go and fly with someone else next time. And he just hung up the phone. Like, he recognized that his time, his company's time, was not worth spending on this woman. She detracted their ability to provide value to their other high-paying clients. So we want to find the individuals that we want to serve. We want to find those who pay us the most, and then we want to fire those who do not, like, we don't care about. And our goal is going to be, in all of our content, is to call those people we want to work with to us, so that we can get them interested in our stuff and see and show them really that what we offer is of value to them. Which leads us to our next piece, which is the value proposition. So first, we build clarity on who we're targeting. Second, we build clarity on our value proposition. So this value proposition up in the top right corner, this value equation, basically it looks like this. You got your dream outcome, and it's math, and I love math, and this is great. And this comes from Alex Hormozi's book, $100 Million Offers. So you have the dream outcome multiplied by the perceived likelihood of achievement. You divide that by time delay and effort and sacrifice. And in all of our content, we want to speak to these things. But boiling this down into a single actionable step, we want to create a one-liner that we can put on all of our social media profiles that will call our people out of the woodworks. So when they see a piece of our content, they look at our profile and they say, this guy solves my problem. I want to follow him. So they follow us, right? So the one-liner is, I help who, do what, achieve dream outcome. And there are multiple pieces that you can tie into this, but this is the simplest statement that I've been able to find. And you can tie any piece of the value equation into this one-liner if you'd like. So you could say achieve dream outcome in time delay, like in 30 days, or in less than 30 days, or without them doing a single thing. The perceived likelihood of achievement is generally your past experience, like the people you've worked with before. And so if you have customers and clients who are very similar to that individual, and this comes in more in one-to-one contacting than in one-to-many, I'd say you might be able to write an article about a case study or something like that. But the closer you're, like, if you can increase your perceived likelihood of achievement by showing, here's what we've been able to achieve for other people, which is why I know we can help you. So having on Twitter, for example, if you have your top post be a pinned tweet of, here's a customer that I helped do your dream outcome in 30 days with very minimal sacrifice. And you have that just laid out. And the closer the person feels with the individual who achieved it in the story, it's like the more likely they will be to follow you and to potentially purchase your services. So I help who, do what, achieve dream outcome, right? And mine right now is I help entrepreneurs get more done in less time with high leverage habits, automations, and AI. We can add or remove any piece of this value equation to our value proposition. And ideally, each piece of content that we write should speak to a part of our value proposition. So that one-liner, our goal is we're actually going to try and we want to put that into our LinkedIn profile, our Twitter profile. We want that to be front and center when someone looks at us, when someone sees us online, that's what they see, is that one-liner. I help, because our goal is to call these people out of the woodworks. We want to call them out and say, are you this kind of person? And if they identify as that kind of person, they're going to say, okay, this person is speaking to me. And then they're going to look at the what and the dream outcome and say, okay, the dream outcome, I'm an HR manager. I would love to be able to automate all of my payroll with perfect accuracy. That would be amazing. And so they'll follow you, right? And start to try and glean more about what you do and maybe reach out to you. And if they look at your content and all of your content is speaking to that as well, and showing them how you actually do that, the time it would take them to get it set up, the effort that they would have to put in to make that happen, and they see that it's worth it, they see the value in that, and you can maybe shine some light on the problem that they do have, and be like, how much time does it take you to actually run your payroll right now? And if they genuinely take a look at it and they say 20 hours per month, you can say, how much would you pay to get 20 hours per month back in your life? Because with our service, it's done in 30 minutes. How long does it take them to get to that state, to get to that dream outcome? How much effort do they need to put in to actually get there? So you should be measuring that as well. Like, measure those two pieces as well. How long does it take for a new company to get into using the new payroll system? How much effort do they need to do? And so if they're needing to double their effort for that 1 month, for that 30-day period, I mean, be open about that. Like, say that's the effort. But once you're done, it goes from the 40 hours on average for HR managers to 1 hour per month. The goal is just to speak to these 4 things and to iterate on these 4 things and build your offer around these 4 things so you can increase your value. The perceived value of your offer to the individuals that you're speaking to in each piece of your content. So all of the content operating system, we're going to get to, like, at the end of this, we're going to talk about analyzation, but all of your content, everything we do in business is just an experiment. We're just continuously iterating. So, but the action we can take right now is taking that one-liner and putting it onto our social media profiles so that people know what we talk about, the value that we can offer them, and also a way to contact us. So you got the one-liner. I help entrepreneurs get more done in less time with high leverage habits, automations, and AI. I've got these talks about cryptocurrency, software consultancy, etc. I've got a button here for claim a free coaching session. I've got my contact info in there. I got all this information. And I can say that the moment I swapped over to Twitter, like on Twitter, that when I changed my profile one-liner to this, the number of follows that I got increased dramatically because people knew what I talked about. I think I've gotten 10 or so followers in the past 5 days just because I swapped to this. That's the only thing I changed in terms of content creation. So this actually does help. Clarity in this area, in this realm of communication, again, it's your foundation. Every piece of content you put out is going to have this at the very top. And so you want this information to be clear. You need to have clarity on it. You need to have the courage to actually change your profile one-liner to be this. So that's our foundation. Next step is the system. And we're going to take it from a high level and then go more granular. And this is where we're going to start getting a lot of details. My goal is going to be to go through it all and then start at the beginning and then work forward and help you guys perhaps build out simple versions of each system that is required to create a full content operating system. So the system from a bird's eye view. Step 1, we ideate. We generate ideas. Step 2, we take those ideas and we create them. Step 3, we actually publish. We schedule out the content. Step 4 is we analyze published content. Step 5 is we reuse content that did fetching good. We recycle. And the goal is to have 20% of our content be reused. We don't want to if we can recycle and reuse previous high performing content, there's a high likelihood that that content will perform very well in the future as well. So we either republish or rephrase the same content in a different way. And if we can do that for at least 20% of our content, we're in a pretty good spot. So before we start, really jump into this, there's a couple of definitions I want to give each of us. First is short form content. I'm going to say, if this is a video, it's less than 3 minutes, arguably less than 1 minute. If it's written, it's less than 300 characters. Think a tweet. If someone has to click on that expand button on LinkedIn or Twitter, it's not short form content anymore. Second, long form content, anything that isn't short form. So I'm going to be using these words. I wanted to give definitions before we hopped in. Third is batch creation. I feel like this is something that a lot of people don't necessarily do, but this is very, very, very important. It is knocking up multiple pieces of content in one go. Fourth is a buffer. You want to have your scheduled content, ideally 30 days out, so that you don't have to do, if you just stopped making content today, you would still be posting content for the next 30 days. That way you can go on vacation, you can take a break, you can walk away, and then you can come back and pick it back up, right? So this is our definitions. So we're going to jump into the first system, which is Ideate. We want to generate and capture ideas for content. And there are two smaller systems that are part of this Ideate system. The first one is content buckets. The goal is to have 3 to 5 main topics that you discuss and teach. So looking at LinkedIn, it's like, that's the I talk about XYZ. If you can tie these in to your one-liner, that's great. And I would say it's really easy to say like the 3 to 5 main topics you discuss and teach. If you can take your main thing, let's say it's manufacturing, and then just go through the 4 things of the value equation, like dream outcome. We help you make 10,000 shirts. The perceived likelihood of success is we've done this for hundreds of other clients. Time delay, we get it to you so fetching fast, you don't even realize it was mass produced. Effort and sacrifice, you just give us the art. We have this system, Sightline, that will let you see through everything. You can see exactly when it's going to be at your doorstep. It's going to be amazing. So very minimal effort from your part. We have the communication system set up so that you can just communicate with us. All right, so you can talk about maybe those 4 things in manufacturing. It's like you got the shipping, you got the actual mass production of this thing, you have the communications and systems of how you actually create the shirt. And so maybe you can teach them in a piece of content your process for, getting their art onto a piece of shirt, getting it approved by them, and then actually mass producing the thing instead of shipping it out to them. Or you can split that up into 4 or 5 pieces of content. But you're teaching them, and these are the 3 to 5 main topics that you discuss. You got your content buckets. And the reason we want these is because it makes it really easy for us to say, here are the 3 to 5 things I talk about. So when we sit down to ideate, it's like, here are the 3 to 5 things I talk about. What's been on my mind, basically? What have I been thinking about recently that I could speak about? And then I can share stories about that thing, which ties into the next step, which is just an ideation system, framework used to generate ideas. So as an example, when you sit down to ideate, you can review your buckets and then move through your experiences, like go in the far past, like here's something that I did 5 years ago. The near past, here's something I did about a year ago. Recent is, here's something I did last week. Present is, here's something I'm doing right now. Fifth is a fabricated, and I think Mr. Beast, this is Mr. Beast style. It's like, we did this thing. Here's how it is. Fabricated is kind of hard. These 5 things are what Alex Hormozy lists out in his book, $100 Million Leads. But I like it because people resonate really well with stories and experiences. And so if all of your content is based off of, here's our experience, here's a story to go along with it, here's what that means to you. It's pretty good at creating content that hooks people in, because you're tying your own life experience into that piece of content, helps people resonate more with you. You also see that, hey, you actually solved my problem. You help that guy solve that problem. That's my problem. That's great. Okay, so that's ideate, right? We sit down, we generate as many ideas as possible using our content buckets and our ideation system. And I gave the content buckets in the system, they're meant to be principles, not necessarily concretions. I say concretion in the sense of you don't actually need to follow, for example, this far past, near past, recent, present, fabricated. You can come up with your own way of coming up with and generating ideas for content. I think that this is just a good starting point to get the ball rolling. And then you can begin to iterate on this particular system as you say, you know, I really like to talk more about my recent, like what I'm going through right now than I am about like the far past. I don't really care too much about my far past, but so just iterating on things is going to be incredibly beneficial to you, but this is the ideation system. Our second step, let's just go back. So these are our 5. We just hit ideate. Next up is create, right? So not through our definitions, create. So our goal, we're still on ideate, aren't we? Here we go. Create, leverage your ideas, batch create high quality content. So I talked about batch creation. Ideally, all of the content for the whole month can be made in a single day. So you don't even have to think about it, touch it, do anything with it for an entire month, right? And maybe it's twice a month. Either way, it's just one full day of your time where you sit down, you ideate, you batch create, and then you schedule out and publish that content for a full 2 weeks, a full month. And so it takes a while to get there. I would say, like, as you get better at the batch creation system, is you're going to be able to start to go from like, you sit down for one session and you schedule out a whole week, to you sit down for one session and you schedule out 2 weeks to 3 weeks. And then you can start to just increase the density of how often you post as you get better at this, which is kind of at a stage where I'm at. I got to the point where I have like 38 posts scheduled, and I could just keep batch creating on a weekly basis. So I'm going to start increasing how often I post to increase the number of eyeballs that see my content. So batch creation, that's the idea. Block off time, sit down, get the crap done, get it pushed out, and just feed it immediately into your publish system. So we'll say the first 3 systems, the ideate, create, and publish, should all ideally happen on the same day for as much content as possible. So we have this batch creation system. The second is this content repurpose system, which helps with the batch creation and is kind of like a subsystem of our batch creation. But if we think about it, so my favorite thing to do, for example, is write a newsletter. Use that newsletter to record a long form video, like a 5 to 10 minute video. And then I'm able to take that video and using AI, split it up into multiple shorts. Just I feed it into an AI and the AI spits out 5 to 7 different shorts from that video. Then I also take that newsletter and I split it up into 5 to 7 different tweets. So I have, from that long form piece of content, I've created 5 plus 7 potentially different short form pieces of content. And it only took me maybe an hour and a half to write the newsletter. Took me maybe, let's say 30 minutes to record the video. And I've already gotten tons of additional pieces of content out of that. So do you want to repurpose that content? If I wrote that newsletter, let's repurpose it. Let's transform the medium into a video. If I've recorded the video, let's transform the medium into a podcast. If I go from then we can go from long form to short form. I can take my newsletter, I can split it up into multiple LinkedIn posts. AI is really, really helpful here. The last thing we can do is say the same thing in multiple ways. We can repurpose our content and say the exact same thing, as we can list it out. We can provide steps to accomplish the thing, or we can give a story, right? And so our content repurpose system, those are the 3 main things. We're going to transform the medium. We're going to go from long form to short form, split up our long form into multiple pieces of short form content, or we're going to say the same thing multiple ways, right? And so this is how I go from a batch creation system. So right now on Fridays, I write my newsletter. And then on Mondays, literally my entire Monday is I ideate based on my newsletter and stories from my past and my content buckets. I split that up into, and it takes me about an hour to come up with 10 short form videos I can record. I already have the long form video that I can record. It's based on my newsletter. And then I take my newsletter and I split that up into multiple short form pieces of content. I can just feed it into an AI basically and have it spit out 5 to 7 different tweets that I can shoot out. So I'm able to, and then I could even refeed those back into the AI and say, rewrite this in the same way, but use a list, use steps, use a story or an analogy, something like that. So AI makes this possible. It makes it possible to transform the medium super easily. Right? Going from a video to a podcast is amazingly easy with AI. Going from long to short form is amazingly easy with AI as well. You can just, as a human, like jump in and tweak things up once it's created the final short form product. And it's also really easy. It makes it really easy to say the same thing in multiple ways. Because you like the goal is just to have the AI generate a lot of things, and then you jump in and customize it, personalize it, make it sound like you. Yeah. So this is something I'm still getting better at, but having your content repurpose system to like getting it out to this degree where you write one solid piece of content and it turns into 37 new ones, that's amazing, right? You're able to do that in one day. I try to write the long form with the short form in mind. So long form pieces of content, what they need to do is they hook your attention, they retain your attention, they reward that attention. And they're going to chain that together multiple times. So in a long form piece of content, technically, like let's say I'm sharing a long form piece of content that has 14 things that I wish I knew 5 years ago. So every single one of those 14 things could technically be a short form piece of content. My goal is to make content that is modular in nature so that it doesn't like, even in the long form content, I can kind of split it out and have it live on its own. Because the more I'm able to do that, the more easy it is for me to repurpose that content. And so in my newsletters, for example, I try to have short, punchy statements that I center. And I would say most of those I can turn into a tweet. So writing it with modularity in mind so that I can repurpose much easier than I would otherwise. So this is our creation system. We batch create, we sit down 1 day or 2 days, maybe once per week, that's it. Like I would say, if you're sitting down more than once per week to ideate and to create, you're doing it wrong. Just get the ball rolling, get the system rolling, batch create, and just get better at it. So that if you, the first time you sat down, you made 5 pieces of content. The second time you sat down, you made 7. Third time you sat down, you made 8. Just try to get better at making more content over like in that period of time, whatever block of time you decided you'd make that content. Now, I should say, just on the flip side, if you don't do this, what does your life look like? You're always worried about, when am I going to record content? When am I going to create it? When am I going to take the ideas that I've had and turn them into something that I can share? Your life, you literally give your life over to chaos. I've done it. Please skip that step. Don't give your life over to chaos. Create the batch creation system. Organize your life in such a way that you're relegating all of the time that you would spend for creation to that one piece. And then just get super insanely good at flexing in that period of time you gave yourself. Okay? Because you will destroy yourself. You will burn yourself out so fast trying to do otherwise. I can promise you that. Okay. So our third step in the system, we had ideate, create, and we're on publish. So schedule out and publish your content so that you can review it later. This is a piece that I'm still working on. I know it's incredibly necessary. I haven't seen a whole bunch of people talk about this or share how they actually do it. I have had hundreds of people just tell me, looks like you just need to review your content, dude. And I'm like, great. Okay, like how do I do that? What's the system? Right? So I've been slowly putting together my own personal system for content review, and I use a software called Buffer, and I'm likely going to pipe lots of different analytics into like a Google Sheet over time. But we want to schedule out and publish our content so we can view it later. Again, the content tracking system, what I was just talking about, where you're reviewing the content that you put out there, finding how it resonates, and then doubling down on that content, which is what this next step is. The next system is analytics, analyze. But I'm still building my content tracking system, but we need this. Every time we publish content, we want to know, how did it do? How is it going? Right? So that we can iterate on what is working and start to improve those things and talk about those things more often. I would say as well, in your publishing system, you want to have a breadth system. It's like use software to publish to multiple platforms with one click. I personally use Buffer, because Buffer lets me automate things with Zapier. Buffer also has built-in analytics tools that I have found really useful for tracking my Twitter and LinkedIn analytics. But again, I'd like to gather analytics from all of my platforms and put them in one spot. So as content tracking system, I'm still figuring that piece out. I don't know if there's really like set way for solid analytics yet. A lot of people start with Twitter. I've noticed that many of the creators start with Twitter and then publish to others, because with Twitter, you have each tweet. You have a tweet thread, and then they just turn each tweet into an image in the carousel on LinkedIn and Instagram. So I've seen tons of content on LinkedIn that was published in that way. So I guess if you just start with Twitter as your main, like as the starting point, you can do the carousels in other places. I started publishing my short form video content on every platform, like LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of them, just because short form video content is the most repurposable content out there. Like long form video, like you normally think YouTube. But short form exists on like Instagram Reels, X is integrating it. We have Facebook, we got TikTok. People have really liked my short form videos on LinkedIn, which I did not expect. I was actually kind of afraid of publishing my short form content on LinkedIn because I thought people would be like, why are you doing this? But there's a lot of value in it. Those short form videos, like a 30 to 58-second video, can be incredibly punchy and powerful. Hashtags are actually getting less and less useful. And so you can think about it like this. Let's say YouTube. It's like they've been working a lot on their AI that classifies videos because they don't want to misclassify a video because someone puts the wrong hashtag in there. And so they'll actually use AI to comprehend the video, its purpose, its intention, what it talks about, and then incorporate that into their search. And on YouTube, actually, hashtags have become incredibly useless over the past couple of months, just because they have it's gotten to the point where the hashtag is not as accurate as the AI is at classifying what your video actually talks about. So hashtags are getting less and less useful. If you can trend jack, I'd say use a hashtag. But if you're not trend jacking, aka like finding a trend that's popping off right now and forming your content around that trend, I'd say
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'd say don't worry about it. The second thing, actually, this third thing, spiral virality, is actually, I would argue, more important than having hashtags in your content. So, you know how we talked about in the creation and the repurposing system, we want to split up long form pieces of content into multiple smaller pieces. Spiral virality just says, when you make those small pieces of content, like if you have a long form video, you split it up into multiple short form videos, just reference that long form video in your short form videos. So if people see the short form video, they like it, they tap on it, they look at the comments, the description, they can tap on it and just hop straight to YouTube, for example. They can go to the long form piece of content. So Brendan Burchard talks a lot about this and how he and multiple people in his circle have used this idea to help their long form pieces of content blow up, because short form content gets a lot of views. And if you want to get more views on your long form pieces of content, you got to take you can take your short form content and use its virality to increase the virality of your long form, right? So simple idea. And if you're already splitting up your long form pieces of content using a repurpose system, I just say slap a reference in the description of the video or the tweet, whatever, to the longer form piece of content. I do it sparingly. I'll just add this caveat. These platforms want you to stay on the platform. So if you're on LinkedIn and you post a link to YouTube, generally it will decrease the visibility of that post because it sees, hey, there's a link that goes outside of LinkedIn. Let's show people this less. This is especially true in Twitter. So they don't want you to have links that go outside of Twitter. They want you to stay on the Twitter platform because the longer you're there, the more money they make. So it makes sense from their standpoint. So if you can publish your long form piece of content on every platform, for example, I haven't ever done this, but this is just an idea I just had. If you can publish your long form piece of content in all of the platforms, and then when you publish the short form piece of content, you reference the content on the long form on the platform it's on, right? You can potentially skip over the decreasing visibility issue that could be caused by referencing a long form content. So these are just some strategies when you're publishing. So again, ideally, your ideate, create, and publish will all happen in the same day, same block, all in one go. It's like we do all three of those things. We get as much crap out there as possible. It's scheduled, it's ready. I don't have to worry about it for at least another week, maybe another 2 weeks. And then ideally, over the long term, it's like, I don't have to worry about this for another month. Okay. So our fourth system is analyze. We want to review our content, determine what is working, iterate, and double down. So what this looks like is a content review system, which is built on top of the content tracking system. We want to know your KPIs. What do you care about? With short form video, for example, the KPI that you care about most is going to be average view duration. It's not views because each platform tracks views differently, but each platform has average view duration in short form video content. It's like on average, how long did people watch this? I'd say this should occur at minimum 3 months after the content was published, where you've published content. Now you go back and maybe you add this into your block of at the beginning, you analyze content and you see what's working. How are we doing? And then we take that and we implement our fourth system, which is we recycle, we reuse, rewrite, and reference high impact content. Okay. So the recycling system is we rephrase or recreate the content. So if we come back 3 months and we find that this video did insanely well, let's rephrase it or recreate it. I misspoke. This isn't correct. This should occur at minimum 3 months after the content was published. I would say only do that if you're just republishing the exact same content. And only do that if it's short form. Never republish your long form content again, unless you can do it on a different platform. That's a different idea, but so I misspoke. I'm sorry. But the recycling, it's like you want to review kind of on a weekly or a monthly basis to determine what's working. And then rephrase or recreate the content that is working. Again, you double down on it and you reuse that. The goal is that 20% of your content is republished, rephrased, or recreated. Because you notice that, hey, that's doing really, really well. Let's reuse it. And then you kind of keep using it until it doesn't work anymore. It's a very similar concept with ads. Once you find an ad that works, that gets you a lot of revenue, you 10x it. Yeah. Push it as hard as you possibly can until it breaks. And then you go and you iterate again. You experiment. Say, okay, let's find another ad that works. So this is our system. High level system is ideate, create, publish. Then we have analyze and recycle. So let's get to work.